Well, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I just wanted to inform you. What I do for my living, as I would say, is I'm a master control operator, and the only reason that applies here to me is that I spend a lot of my time at work making fun of commercials because that really is fun for me. One of my favorite new ones is there's this Apple commercial with the song Gigantic from the Pixies. That's this new Apple program featured to talk about how the new apps work wonderfully and it's all for kids and everything. Well, one of the most enjoyable parts about it is that the song Gigantic is actually written about a giant penis. So as your kids and family enjoy their iPhone 5s, remember, Apple is sponsored by giant penises. You think it's not funny, but then you hear the song next time the commercial comes on and you will not be able to get this out of your head. That Apple commercial has been sponsored by giant penises. Everywhere. Coming to you, America. Alright, so this week I've got you Indy Cindy, the new Pixies record, the first one since 1991. Woo! Big deal. No, seriously, it's a big deal. I mean, look at this thing. It's actually pretty cool. It unfolds in like 6 different ways. Flappy and everything. With the disc hidden in there. It's indie and creative like you expect from the Pixies. But before we get into it, it's a mystery on the Pixies. So, the Pixies are an American alternative rock band formed in Boston, Massachusetts in 1986. The group consists currently of Black Francis, Joey Santiago, David Lovering, and, well, Kim Deal is no longer there, but she is a massive force in the Pixies and will never be forgotten. She was actually replaced after she left in 2012 by Kim Shetuk, and Kim was replaced for stage diving, apparently that's not allowed, by Paz Licharton. So don't be a Kim in the Pixies. It doesn't work well for you. You won't make it. So they actually formed up born in Charles Thompson the First was Frank. Of course, Frank is actually Black Francis, but he goes by many names. He's the lead singer and former songwriter along with Kim Deal. The pair, Kim Deal, formed up in 1986 in January, and 2 weeks later they classified an advertisement and they played together, and it was a big deal. It worked wonderfully. After recruiting Deal, they tried unsuccessfully to get her sister Kelly Deal to join in as the drummer. Kim's husband suggested they get David Lovering, who Kim had met at their wedding reception. The group arrived on the name after Santiago selected the word Pixies randomly from a dictionary, and liking how it looked in the definition of mischievous little elves, the band was formed. Once they had settled on a stable lineup, they moved to rehearsals and played shows at bars in the Boston area. The first thing they put out was a 1987 EP, Come On Pilgrim, which was the first thing they ever did, and it was quickly followed by their first full-length album, which was Surfer Rosa. Now, Surfer Rosa is one of the 2 major masterpieces with the song Gigantic on it, penis song, and it was recorded with Steve Albini, who's hired. He's a famous producer, and certainly after that, they went straight from there after having a huge success with this album because it was a masterpiece, and it went on straight into Doolittle, and Norton produced their second full album, which was recorded in 6 weeks in 1988, Doolittle. It was more of a raw, and it's hard else to describe Doolittle in any other way. Aside from that, we're going to go into the album now, and let me just say, this album, the truth of it is sad because it's actually, no matter how good it was going to be, it's screwed from the start, because unless it was a masterpiece and exactly the same sound as the old albums, it was never going to be good enough for the Pixies fans, because they're a cult following who expect masterpieces from the Pixies. It's tough, because this hasn't, they haven't been a band since 1991, really. They haven't put out an album since 1991. They've aged 20 years since then, yet we expect them to pick up their instruments and sound like nothing has changed since then. Time has passed, and with them, and their music has changed, and they aren't the same band they used to be, so I go into this without expectation and trying to not compare it to their previous albums. That isn't going to happen, because I'm terrible at that, and everybody compares the Pixies to the previous works. I think I've already done it, even starting here. But I'm going to try my best to do it as little as possible. To start off, the album is divided, actually, I think, personally, into 3 sections. You've got your first section, which is What Goes Boom, Greens and Blues, and Indy City, which is like the sounds of what you'd think them trying to sound like classic Pixies. The second section is this dark and brooding, eerie side of the album, which starts about Bag Boy and goes through about Blue-Eyed Hex. Yeah, about Blue-Eyed Hex, maybe ring the bell a little bit, but it's mostly lighter. After that, the third section of the album is actually this very light, airy alt-rock victory lap, sort of just happy that they got this album finished. So let's start. What Goes Boom? This song is actually the closest thing you're going to get to the Pixies of the olden days. It's one of the most angsty and raw songs from the album, and it's also one of the best on the album because of it. It's what you expect from the Pixies, but it's raw but sophisticated, if that makes sense, because it's almost too advanced and smart lyrically for their old style of things, because if you listen to the old Pixies, they're weird, but they're not like sipping on wine glasses sophistication in there. The next song is my personal favorite on the album, Grins and Blues. You know, I think personally on every Pixies album there is that one song it's catchy and it's less weird. I mean, it's weird, but it's less weird than some of their other songs, and it's a more super fun sing-along song. This is that song here. You know, you got your Here Comes Your Mans, your Gigantics, your Planet of Sounds. On this album, it's this one. Only more folky and, I don't know, just what you'd expect. It's good. It's a good, solid song. Following that, we've got Indie City, which starts off with an eerie rock riff and a snarled spoken word chorus about hipster culture. It's snarled and gruff, but more mellow here from before. Another highlight of the album, it really works. It's, I don't know, Black Francis doing his thing that he does best. Now we get to Bag Boy, which is actually the very first Pixies new song they released. It was a big surprise when they finally dropped it, and it was awesome. It was amazing, and it was, personally to me, a success. People didn't like it, but I thought it was pretty good. It's another spoken word chorus song, but unlike Cindy, it's actually dark, loud, with huge guitar riffs and a marching drum beat. It's like diving. It divides the point where after this song, or during and after this song, it's the second half. With the second third, the darker, more eerie, haunted house sounds. Following that, we get Magdalena 318, which sounds, to me, like it could have fallen on bossa nova in the earlier days. It's dark and it's brooding, and it's got a melancholy chorus, like a stalker has been chasing its prey. After that, personally, the final highlight of the album. Silver Snail is a more mellow song from Black Francis, on vocals at least. It's surrounded by tons of reverb, it's darker, but it's got a droning bass line that really you can feature on the song. It sounds haunted house or a horror movie. This is the Pixies, and they're weird, but it's a very half yelled, half grunted, thrown in, along with some heavy bass riffs added on top. Ring the Bell is where the album shifts into the more optimistic, airy songs. It's a song that doesn't really sound like the Pixies to me. I don't know. It's the chorus is repeated over and over, with lighter canter and instrumentals thrown on in the background. It just doesn't remind me of the Pixies that much. Another Tone in the Ocean it's an alt-light rock song. It could be mistaken for Bob Mould, Weezer, Jimmy Eat World, a lot of different things. And that's what's weird about it, is it doesn't sound like the Pixies. It's too normal, too straightforward. Could be a Foo Fighters song. It's light and airy, with this, I don't know, surprising element of normalness to it. It's about being calm in the face of death. The next song is Andro Queen, which is a slower indie rock song. It's definitely, occasionally it slips into Spanish, so it's Is La Dan Canta Anyone? It's sort of the twist, but it's not enough to make it sound like the Pixies. Still, the mellower stuff just doesn't sound like the Pixies to me. It was written with a surprising amount of romanticism in the lyrics. It's got some swirling guitars in the background, but I don't know. Last third of the album is not a big deal to me. It just doesn't do it as much. Forward indie rock song with craziness about being attacked by a snake. That's pretty exciting. And the last, Bravo. I don't know. The final track of the indie rock ballad Goodbye from the Pixies. It's a very grand finale. It actually talks about how it's just a final goodbye, about soaking in the final moment before it ends. I don't know. That's really just kind of cool. I don't know if it's going to be the last thing you hear from the Pixies, but I liked it more than most people did, to be honest. But even still, the album does lose more steam as it goes on. The final third loses really interesting moments to it, and the third part of it is just trying a new direction that it's the Pixies. It's awesome.